Artistic Gamer 7, and welcome back to some more Sims 4 Occult discussion. Basically, if you missed the last 2 episodes, they will be a playlist in the description down below. If you did not miss them and you are enjoying the series so far and you're looking forward to discussing some more occults with me, then hit that lovely like button, and let's continue on to the video. So in this one, we're going to be talking about another occult, obviously. This one is actually one that I'm not, like, super excited about necessarily. Partially because I really did not like them in The Sims 3. Really cared less about them. But with one of the occults that's already in the game, and one of the occult that I talked about in the last one, which you might know where I'm going with this at this point. Also, if you read the description, you already know where I'm going with this as well. But I mean the title. But I feel like it was necessarily to bring up werewolves at this point. So a lot of I was mentioning in the last one, a lot of these shows and like a lot of the references to vampires and witches when they were together also constantly a lot of times had werewolves. And then particularly with vampires and werewolves are like often like put together, and werewolves actually tend to have, like, they don't have as many powers and stuff as vampires, but they do have the fact that a lot of the things that I watch, their bite is actually lethal to vampires. So, you know, they're like one of those, like, things that when you, like, start really reading into stories or watching shows and stuff like that, the werewolves are sort of almost one of those balances to control the vampires in a certain way. The werewolf venom is actually toxic to the vampires. What is funny is, like, one of my favorite, like, shows, like, grouping of shows, they actually, I think it's Wolfsbane, that is technically a poison to werewolves, and it's technically already in the game. It came with vampires, and I forgot what function Wolfsbane served in terms of the vampires, because the originals was the main thing that I'm referring to, and the group of, like, shows that go along with it. It was Vervain for vampires and Wolfsbane for werewolves. And, you know, that was what were their two weaknesses. And the fact that Wolfsbane's already technically in The Sims 4 is quite interesting. So there's technically already a balance and a con for werewolves that they could use in the game, if you have vampires. The only problem about that is that, you know, if you add a new pack into the mix and you don't have vampires, then you don't have the Wolfsbane. So I don't know if they would allow that to be doubly entered, or, like, you know, maybe they would give it, like, a new slightly look so that you still have two different variations of Wolfsbane. I don't know really necessarily how they would go about doing that, like, little checks and balance, but part of the reason why I didn't like werewolves in Sims 3 was that they didn't seem like, I mean, maybe it was also partially because I just didn't give them a chance. I didn't like the way they looked when they turned into a werewolf, but also that was, like, part of the reason, and I tried to give werewolves a chance, but there's just something about them that I was like, eh. So, you know, I definitely would like them to try to go more in depth and give them more abilities or whatever. Werewolves tend to, at least in a lot of things that I see, they tend to be strong even when they're not in wolf form. They're very, very, very strong. They're very athletic. They can run pretty quick even when they're not in, like, a werewolf form or wolf form or whatever. But maybe not, like, superhuman fast, but very, very quick. They have a lot more strength and abilities and stamina than your normal person. So I definitely would like maybe if they did add werewolves, which part of me would be surprised if they didn't add them, and then another part of me wouldn't be surprised, because from my personal experience, I don't know if many people really super like the werewolves in Sims 3, but I do think the werewolves could, if they were done right, they could be an actual fun occult. Now, obviously, one of the things that I also feel like would be super necessarily is to have that pact mentality. I do feel like the werewolves slightly had that in Sims 3, because I think I remember they all would actually come together at some point, like when the moon turned. like when it was a full moon, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't completely quote me on that, but I think they did. But I feel like that pact mentality should automatically be a thing. And I definitely know that when from what like the shows that I've watched and the shows that I like the werewolves in, when there is a new werewolf that comes in, a lot of times a lot of people actually want to meet them, and they're actually very inviting of the baby and stuff like that. So like even that, maybe at an event that when like a new werewolf is born, like other werewolves in that group actually come over, like, you know, almost like a welcoming party, but instead of a welcoming party, like a new member party or whatever. And maybe also the option to give them like pack marks, because that was something that I thought was really cool with the originals, is that the different packs had like, or at least the like main like head family, or at least had those marks. So I think that would be sort of cool. That would be something very very small that if they didn't include, if they ever put werewolves in, that I that's not one of those things that I'd be like very stressed about, but that'd be like a cool little thing that would also give them more depth. Now I did mention with the witches and stuff that they have covens, and the covens were very close, but I feel like werewolves and their packs are actually even closer. So I definitely think they're, for the werewolves, that's like a thing that's almost a must. Is like they should have this pact mentality. They should have this closeness, this bond to other werewolves. And when they turn, I feel like I don't like how they technically looked in Sims 3. The werewolf, obviously a werewolf is supposed to be half human, half wolf, but I sort of like the werewolf, like the way that some do it, to where on a full moon they turn into basically a full wolf. It looks a little bit bigger than an actual wolf, but like, you know, an actual wolf. Like I actually prefer that than like the human hybrid. Maybe like, you know, like maybe to include that if they really felt like they needed to include that or something like that. Maybe maybe the werewolves can have like maybe even like a power thing like the vampires do, where you have an ability where you don't fully change into a wolf. So you can pick that ability to where you don't fully change, but you still would have to change some. That is part of a werewolf. Like you can't just get rid of that completely. Or I don't think that would be right, unless they were like some master werewolf. Then maybe they can have that chance to not be able to change as often or be able to control the change, because I think it was technically like in the originals, I think how they did it, or like the set of the originals Vampire Diaries, and also I think Legacies is like the new spin-off. I think how they sort of did it was that it's technically a spell that is on the werewolves that causes them to turn, and there was also a way that they were able to start turning on their own in a way. So like maybe that could be like an ability that a werewolf who has mastered their abilities and powers can maybe eventually get to where they can turn on command. But I don't think you should take away the fact that they have to turn somewhat on a full moon. I think that is very very werewolf and very crucial to the whole thing. So but I actually would almost prefer them to turn more full wolf. Like obviously a wolf that still has a little bit like more of the human thought process, like they know who they are and what each wolf is as a normal person and stuff, but at the same time they turn into wolves during the full moon, because I think that would be so much cooler, and also in some ways somewhat creepier for your Sims if you just all of a sudden go out and there's like a pack of wolves. Like, where did these guys come from? Why are they slightly bigger than your average wolf? Like that, I just think that would be a lot cooler, other than these hairy humanoid creatures that Sims 3 had. I don't know. I didn't like that. I just didn't care for that too much. But, so yeah, the werewolves are sort of, I feel like, for like storytelling around like, in like a lot of stories and histories, they are tied to the vampires strongly, and I almost feel like it's nice to have them there as a background, but they don't tend to have a lot of abilities compared to the vampires or witches. So there's not like a whole lot necessarily you can add in that way. But honestly, mermaids don't necessarily either, and it doesn't look like they have a whole lot of powers there, but they're still, so what I'm seeing so far, they're still pretty fleshed out pretty well. So I think they could, if they went about it right. If they went about it right, they could do the werewolves justice. I definitely would prefer the wolf form instead of an in-between form. Like, maybe as they're changing into a wolf, there could be an in-between form, like, maybe fur or hair, fur, whatever, starts showing up more often the closer to, I think it's 12. Like, basically, at 12, that's when the full transformation's supposed to be done. So, or, like, basically starts heading into full transformation and such, but, they fully turn into fur, like, they start getting fur, they start getting hairy, maybe some of their bones start looking like, strange or something like that because they're turning into these creatures. Maybe that slow transition, obviously they would have to do a slightly fast transformation, like, after they got so far. They couldn't just keep slowly start granted, in Strangerville, they did have the people actually going oh, I hit my screen. So maybe they actually would do that. I know, with the Vampire Diaries and originals, and then there's also another show. Oh, I forgot what it was. It's a show that I've seen pop up on Netflix. It's this girl who is a werewolf, and she goes into a cave, and it looks like she's trying to hide herself and lock herself up. Also, because of their wolf form, like, yeah, they know each other, but they do sort of lose semi-control of themselves more comparatively than their human self, so they tend to try to hide themselves away and lock themselves up. She also did it where the bones started cracking and contorting and stuff like that, and I actually really want to watch that, but I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But, if they wanted to go that full route, they could. I don't know if they would, just because of the fact that maybe to some that could start to seem a little creepy and a little graphic. I was sort of surprised to see how they did the Strangerville people, where they was like, like, I was sort of surprised in that transformation into turning into the possessed sim. So that was definitely interesting and definitely different. So who knows, they might would do that. I partially don't think they would. I don't know how they would handle the transformation. Unless they just, like, basically eventually made the sim, like, crouch down and was sort of making some noises, and then, like, smoke would form around them, and then they would turn into the wolf. I think, once they turn into the wolf, the player technically should lose some control. Like, you could still follow them, you could still, like, follow the camera, but that would be the element of, like, once they turn into their wolf form, they get super packed mentality, and they sort of lose control. And, like, maybe you can do, like, general commands or whatever, but not, like, full on controls. But that would be fun to just, I would honestly just have fun enjoying and seeing what the pack would do together, like, all the wolves come together in one spot, and sort of huddle together and walk around together and stuff like that, and just watch what they do. That would be sort of fun. I don't think they should add a thing where they attack any of the Sims. If they are going to attack any of the Sims, I think the only Sims that I think would be okay for them attacking and make sense for them attacking is, like, maybe they have a thing in there. If you have the Vampires game pack, they sense when a vampire is around, because that is the main one that I've seen in stories and stuff, that when they lose control, that's the main thing that they go after, is the vampires. So maybe in that sense, but I still don't think they would do that, and I would be okay if they didn't do that. So it's not like a big deal, but definitely would like the wolf, the pack mentality, like some abilities, like, having super strength, and maybe having, like, a faster speed, and because I feel like even if they don't look muscular, as soon, like, most of the werewolves in human form still had quite a bit of strength. They wasn't necessarily as strong as, like, some of the vampires in the stories, who could literally just go whoom, but they were also stronger than the normal humans. So I definitely would like to see them have more of, like, a strength, an easy athletic ability, like, definitely more athletic. Their fitness maybe went up a lot faster. Have, like, the one thing that would be personally really cool to me, I don't know, it would almost be combining the effects of create a sim for cats and dogs with regular sims, but I would like to be able to change their wolf form to a certain extent. I don't think you should have like the color wheel or anything like they do for the actual dogs, but like being able to change like maybe give you a few patterns choices. So like maybe there's a certain pattern that's more common with certain packs, or at least story element wise you can say like this pack has this fur pattern and this pack has this fur pattern. Like, you know, that would make me super excited actually if I got to do stuff like that and like edit like their fur color and like maybe give them different like fur patterns and stuff like that, and change like the color of their eyes when they're a wolf form. Obviously there should be certain dominant colors like yellows and greens. I feel like light blues and whites, like those type of colors should be some of them that are like the main dominants for wolf eye colors. But just having a few options that like sort of customize the wolf form if they did do the wolf form instead of just the half human half wolf form, which again I strongly would prefer the wolf form. So basically having some customization there, but you know, I could get excited about this if they did do the right things and the things the right way. The wolf form alone, like full on wolf form, would make me a lot happier automatically than the Sims 3 version. So that right there would make me happy. So if they did that, that would be a huge step in the right direction if they add werewolves. But anyway, I basically have talked about this. I think I'm gonna end up talking about these occults longer than I think I'm going to, but they're obviously, the video's not like super long, but still longer than I thought it was gonna be, especially for werewolves, because I didn't think I was gonna end up talking about werewolves long at all. Let me know down in the comments below, what is your opinions on the stuff that I've stated? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or do you want to elaborate on something a little bit more? Is there like maybe some facts? Because I know quite a few facts about certain occults, like in like terms of like storybooks and things like that and shows, but I don't know all of the facts or all the legends and myths. I don't know all that stuff. So if there's something that I don't know of that could even add to the particular occult or something like that, let me know down in the comments below. Would you be excited for werewolves if they came to the Sims 4? And would you prefer the half human, half wolf form or the full on wolf form? Very, very curious on how you would feel about that, but I really want the wolf form. If they do werewolves, I want the wolf form. I want the full on beautiful but scary wolf. That's what I want. But, you know, leave all that stuff down in the comments below so we can have some discussions. If I end up getting a lot of stuff, I will do like a little follow-up video for the werewolves as well to add on, so that maybe other people can add to the discussion or elaborate on some of your others. Because some people look at all the comments and some people just leave a comment. So, you know, they may have not seen, like, your suggestion or whatever. So, you know, I'll do a video of it on a follow-up if I get quite a few comments on this on the werewolves. And shit, if you like the video, hit that like button. And make sure you're subscribed so you can see the next one. The next one is going to be a one that I'm actually sort of excited to talk about, which, compared to its previous version, I actually hated those even more than the werewolves. And I didn't hate the werewolves, but, you know, in Sims 3, I didn't like them. But I really didn't like these. Like, I would have took the werewolves in Sims 3 over these in a heartbeat. So, but if they do things the way I'm wanting them to, or thinking of, or at least close to it, I would be okay with this occult. So, I already know what the next one is. I'm looking forward to it. I actually also put a tweet out over on my Twitter. Obviously, by the time I put this video up, it may be a few weeks old, for all I know, depending, because I do, like, put stuff. Anyway, I was saying, I do sometimes put stuff a bit after I've recorded it, because I do a lot of pre-recording because I have 2 jobs, and sometimes I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to record again, or, you know, just particularly that type of video or whatever. So I do try to record as much ahead of time as I can, so I don't know how long that tweet will be out by the time that this is posted. But I've already seen a few suggestions with some of them were things that I didn't think of, but where I'm asking like what occults would you like to see, and some of them were not things that I suggested. well, would have thought. So, but it's interesting to see that people are suggesting these things. So definitely interesting and continuing the occult discussions later on down the road. I will continue this series for. I'm planning on it mainly being a mini series, but it may not end up being a mini series just because, even though a lot of them or certain ones probably have a very small chance of getting in there, I feel like werewolves almost have a higher chance of getting in than something like a genie, even though a genie still could be really cool, but I feel like if they did do genies, they wouldn't be controllable technically. In controllable stance, werewolves probably are going to more likely happen, but it still would be fun to talk about it and think about it, and who knows, maybe if the discussion starts getting out there and they start seeing like suggestions from different people in the community, maybe they would think about it some more, who knows. I am very small compared to most YouTubers, so the chance of anyone on the Sims team seeing any of these and maybe being like, oh, that's a good idea, probably not very high, but, you know, one can hope and dream. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.